I recently picked up some Stephen King books that I want to show you, and one that you're not even going to believe. I recently picked up some Stephen King books. A friend of mine had told me that there was a store not too far from my office, and that they had a bunch of Stephen King out. So I really wanted to pick those up. There are a lot of beaters. They're a little beat up. All of them owned by one guy that was apparently named Binge, who signed a lot of them. So that's kind of cool in some way that, he kind of actually scribbled on them. And that's not a real signature of Stephen King and Peter Straub. That's just a fake one. It's been printed. But anyway, here's a couple of the books that I picked up. There was a lot of Stephen King there on the floor, and so I grabbed them all. They were all $1. Stephen King, Peter Straub, The Talisman, Different Seasons, which has so many different stories in it that including The Shawshank Redemption, Stand By Me, and trying to think of the other one. Apt Pupil, the movie Apt Pupil about the Nazi that was done by Summers, I believe. I can't remember the director's name. Also, some old school Stephen King, Night Shift and The Stand. This is the abridged version of The Stand. If you pick it up now or you buy the electronic book, it's got all this stuff that's added in by Stephen King. Stephen King was mad because they'd cut so much out of it, but the publisher cut it out because they couldn't print a book that thick at the time. So Signet actually had him cut part of the book out, and so that's why it's now been put back in. And also, like I was telling you on another video, I just love 80s covers because they would have, look at that cover price, $250. Wow. That was back in the day. But anyway, here's the inside cover, which is even cooler. This one doesn't quite line up. But anyway, that's the kind of stuff they used to do back in the day. Also had two of the Dark Tower books, which I hope to read all of them one day. I've dabbled with it, but I haven't read them all. Anyway, The Gunslinger, and the second book, The Drawing of the Three, which I was thinking to myself, wouldn't The Drawing of the Three, shouldn't it have been the third book? But I digress, Also, one of Stephen King's books is, I don't know how well it sold. I'm sure it sold well, but Eye of the Dragon, The Eyes of the Dragon, which is not one of his well-known books. And if you ever see it in a hardback, it's usually pretty small. Also had 4 Past Midnight. And like I say, these are beaters. They're just a good read. But, if you buy Stephen King, it's hard to find Stephen King. It used to be that was all you could find. Now, they also had one of his hard case crime books. I really enjoyed hard case crime. Titan Books out of England does those. I've liked pretty much every one I've ever read. But anyway, this is one about a carnival, a fun house of fear, Joyland. So looking forward to that. I had read The Colorado Kid, which I don't know if you like mysteries or not, but that one is definitely a mystery. It's still a mystery to me. But anyway, nice trade paperback of Joyland. But the piece de resistance, the book worth going for, was at the bottom of the pile. There was a book without a book jacket. And I know the lady didn't know what she had, and that's all I'm going to say, because it is the Bachman books, 4 early novels by Stephen King. And if you know, you know. If you don't know, you don't know. But anyway, these are the 4 original books that he wrote as Richard Bachman, which were actually his first books. And he actually explains why he wrote as Richard Bachman. And see, this particular book is very water damaged, but I was just happy to get it. If you find this particular book of the Bachman books, if you find it with a cover, with a dust jacket, and you find it in good shape, they go from anywhere to $100 to $200. If you find the original Bachman paperbacks, they go for thousands. So if you ever find those in the wild. But the big draw to this book in particular is a book called Rage. And Rage is not available anywhere else because it was only printed in this reprint. But it's about a student that gets molested by a professor, and then she goes back and takes revenge on him and kills him. And it was actually used by somebody in a trial and they said, well, I read this Stephen King book, Rage, and that's why, or I read this book, Rage, and that's why I did what I did. So somebody actually had used the book as a basis for murder, so Signet pulled the book, and you cannot find it anywhere. The other books that are in here are, and I'm trying to think of what they are right off the top of my head, The Long Walk, Road Work, and The Running Man. I know The Running Man is in here. And then Stephen King wrote, also as Richard Bachman, he wrote Pet Sematary. And when Pet Sematary came out, it was kind of like the J.K. Rowling thing, where she didn't want people to know she had written the book, and he was testing it to see. And but anyway, the reason people found out about Richard Bachman was because he had the same literary agent and things like that, and people just figured out that it was Stephen King. But I originally read, that was the first Bachman book I read, was Pet Sematary, and then I also read Thinner. Thinner is another one he wrote as Richard Bachman. But anyway, I'm looking forward to reading Rage, because you can't get anywhere else. I haven't even found like a PDF of it or any other way for you to find it. So that right there is worth the price of admission. It's a roughed up book, looks like it's got Kool-Aid stains, but it's still in pretty good shape, and I'm hoping to read The Rage by Stephen King. If you like this video, please hit like and subscribe, and you'll continue to see more content like this. I'm Eric Stafford saying I hope you have a great day.